lights dimmed, the crowd settled, and a fragile silence swept through the studio until a thin, barefoot boy stepped onto the stage, clutching an old, worn-out guitar as if it were the last precious thing he owned. His name was Miko, and in that single moment, nobody imagined that this quiet child from a tiny fishing village in the Philippines was about to change everything. Miko's voice trembled when he introduced himself. He wasn't used to big crowds. He wasn't used to attention. He definitely wasn't used to standing under hundreds of blinding lights in front of world-famous judges, but he was used to surviving. Back home, life had never been easy. His mother worked double shifts, selling fish at the wet market, and his father had been gone for years. Miko helped whenever he could, carrying crates, repairing nets, even singing on street corners with the very guitar he now held on stage. The guitar had been a gift from his grandfather, who taught him his first chords before passing away. Every song Miko played was a small attempt to keep that memory alive. And today, he hoped it would be enough. One judge leaned forward, noticing the guitar's cracked body. "Are you ready, Miko?" she asked softly, sensing his nerves. He nodded, swallowed hard, and took a breath. The first string rang out soft, almost hesitant. Then the next, and then, as if someone had reached inside him and pulled out all the pain he had ever tried to bury, Miko began to sing Hotel California. The studio froze. His voice was raw but hauntingly beautiful, filled with a mature sorrow that didn't belong to a 12-year-old. Every lyric carried pieces of his story, nights he'd gone to bed hungry, days he stood under scorching sun singing for coins, moments he questioned if dreams were meant for kids like him. As he reached the chorus, his voice cracked not from mistakes, but emotion. One judge covered her mouth, another closed his eyes, letting the boy's voice pull him somewhere deep and familiar. The audience leaned in, breathless. What they didn't know was that minutes before stepping on stage, Miko almost quit. Backstage had been a whirlwind of confident, well-dressed contestants practicing scales and warming up. Some had vocal coaches, some had expensive outfits. Miko had none of that. When two kids laughed at his broken guitar and hand-me-down clothes, he nearly ran out the exit door, but then he remembered his mother shaking hands as she slipped a few coins into his pocket that morning, her entire savings for his fare. "You go and act," she told him. "Show them your heart." So he stayed. And now, standing on that stage, singing with everything inside him, he honored her sacrifice. When the final note drifted into silence, the room erupted. People rose to their feet. The judges wiped tears from their eyes. One of them leaned into her microphone, voice trembling. "Miko, I've heard this song thousands of times, but never like this. You didn't just sing it, you lived it, and you made us feel your whole journey." The second judge shook his head in disbelief. "You're not just a singer, you're a storyteller, and you reminded us why we fell in love with music in the first place." The third judge, who rarely cried, cleared his throat. "You are what this competition is all about." Miko didn't know what to say. He only knew that his dream, something he once thought belonged only to kids, with money, with confidence, with perfect lives, suddenly felt real. That night his performance went viral. Viewers from all around the world shared his story, sending messages of support, donations, and even offers to help repair or replace his guitar. But Miko insisted on keeping the old one. It was a part of him. The challenges didn't disappear overnight. He still struggled with self-doubt. He still faced critics. He still had days when he felt like he wasn't enough. But every time he picked up his guitar, he remembered the boy who almost walked away and the judges who cried because he dared to stay on stage. In the finale weeks, Miko didn't just grow as a performer, he grew as a person. He learned that hardship wasn't something to hide. It was something he could transform into strength, into art, into hope. And although he didn't control what the world would say, he controlled the story he told. By the end of the competition, Miko stood not as a poor boy from nowhere but as a symbol of what courage looks like when life gives you every reason to quit. His final message in the closing interview brought everyone to tears again. "I used to think dreams were for other kids, but now I know a dream doesn't care where you come from, it only cares how much heart you give it." And with that, the world didn't just applaud him, they believed in him. And more importantly, Miko finally believed in himself. The sun had barely risen over the Manila skyline when Miko and his mother stepped out of the small apartment they were temporarily staying in for the competition. The city was loud, busy, overwhelming, but today it felt different. People recognized him. Some waved. Others whispered, "That's the boy who sang Hotel California." Miko lowered his head shyly, clutching his guitar, as if it could shield him from all the attention. His mother placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Anak, don't hide. They see your heart. Be proud of that." Still, fame wasn't easy. Overnight, expectations piled on his shoulders. Critics online questioned his talent, calling his success luck. Larger contestants saw him as a threat and grew cold. Even some staff members treated him differently, some kinder, others dismissive. But the biggest challenge came when Miko learned that the next round required a second song, one that meant even more than Hotel California. He had no idea what to choose. For days, he practiced until his fingers burned. Nothing felt right. The weight of pressure tightened like a rope around his chest. His mother watched him struggle but knew he needed to find the answer himself. One evening he slipped out of the apartment and walked to a quiet rooftop where he could see the city lights sparkle like stars. He sat with his guitar, closed his eyes, and tried to breathe. That's when a voice spoke behind him. "Mind if I join?" It was one of the judges, the one who rarely cried. His name was Gabriel Cruz, a legendary Filipino musician who had mentored countless young performers. Miko was stunned. "I heard you were looking for a song," Judge Gabriel said softly, sitting beside him. "May I hear what you're working on?" Miko hesitated, then began to sing a few uncertain notes of a Filipino classic anak. His voice cracked, and he stopped immediately, embarrassed. "It's no good," he whispered. "I can't do it." Gabriel shook his head. "No, you're scared. That's different." Miko swallowed hard. "What if I disappoint everyone? What if the first song was the only good one I'll ever sing?" Gabriel rested a hand on his shoulder. "Great artists aren't great because they're fearless. They're great because they sing through the fear." He handed Miko a small notebook. Inside were handwritten lyrics, some old, some unfinished. "These were my father's," Gabriel explained. "He wrote songs when times were hard. When he didn't know how to tell us he loved us, he wrote it here. I think you'll understand them. You've lived these emotions." Miko ran his fingertips along the pages, feeling something familiar: pain, longing, hope. "Sing the story you know," Gabriel said, "not the one you think people want." That night, Miko found the song. It wasn't a popular hit. It wasn't a classic. It was a forgotten melody written by a man who poured his heart into words no one ever heard. Miko added his own touch, soft riffs from his grandfather's lessons, gentle falsettos from the influence of street singers he used to listen to, and raw emotion only hardship can teach. He practiced until sunrise. The next performance, when Miko stepped on stage for round 2, the cheers were louder than ever. But he wasn't thinking about fame or judges or cameras. He thought about his mother, his grandfather, Gabriel's father, every person who ever used music as a way to survive. The lights dimmed. He began to sing. The melody was slow, tender, full of longing about a child promising his mother that no matter how far life carried him, he would always return. It spoke of sacrifice, loss, forgiveness, and love so unconditional that even pain couldn't destroy it. Halfway through the song, Miko saw tears rolling down his mother's face in the audience. But then he noticed the judges, Gabriel gripping his pen tightly, the other judges wiping their eyes again, the crowd sinking into complete silence. This time, Miko didn't fear the silence. He embraced it. When he strummed the final chord, the studio burst into applause, so loud he could barely hear himself breathe. Judge Gabriel stood first. "Miko," he said, voice thick with emotion, "you just honored my father, and every parent who ever gave up something so their children could have a chance. You turned a forgotten song into a masterpiece." Another judge added, "You didn't just sing. You carried all of us home." For the first time in his life, Miko felt something powerful, belonging. But the world isn't kind to rising stars. That night, as the online voting began, negative rumors spread. People questioned if Gabriel helping him was unfair. Others accused Miko of using a sob story to win sympathy. The hate comments came fast and harsh. Miko read them quietly, his hands trembling around his phone. His mother gently took it away. "Anak, people talk when they see someone rising. Don't let the noise drown the music inside you." He nodded, but the hurt stayed. The next morning, Gabriel visited again. "You'll face storms," he told Miko. "Everyone does, but storms only prove how strong your roots are." They sat together, playing chords, shaping a new song, one for the finale. A song about strength, about rising, about choosing hope every time life tries to break you.